Shop the Sherwin-Williams Labor Day sale and get 35% off paints and stains August 22nd through September 4th. With prices starting at $31.84, it's the perfect time to transform your space with color. Whether you're looking to revamp your interior or exterior, we have you covered with bold hues, soothing neutrals, and everything in between. Visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store or shop the sale online. Delivery available on qualifying orders. Click the banner to learn more. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
I'm here on the job site with Dale, who's a framing contractor.
Hey, good morning.
Dale traded up to Geico Commercial Auto Insurance for all his business vehicles. We're here where he needs us most.
Yep, they sure are.
We make it easy for him to save on all his insurance needs, all in one place, with coverage that fits his business and bottom line. Oh, I shouldn't have looked down.
It's all right.
We're so far up here.
Look at me. Take a deep breath.
Oh, I'm good. So good.
Get a commercial auto insurance quote today at geico.com and see how much you could save. Get more with Geico.
Welcome to the Covert Narcissism Podcast. I'm your host, Renee Swanson. I am not a therapist, and you are not a victim. Welcome back to the Covert Narcissism Podcast, where we arm you with the legal and emotional tools you need to stand your ground when you are divorcing or preparing to divorce a covert narcissist. I'm your host, Renee Swanson, and today's episode is one you will not want to miss. If you are in the process of divorcing a high-conflict narcissist or even just thinking about it, you already know that this is not a typical separation. The stakes are high, the tactics are ruthless, and the emotional toll can be unbearable. That's why I am so grateful to be joined today by family law attorney and author Bree Sullivan-Howell. With over 2 decades of experience helping clients navigate the treacherous waters of post-separation abuse, legal manipulation, and custody battles, Bree brings practical strategies and compassionate guidance for surviving and even thriving through the process. We're going to cover what triggers these high-conflict personalities when you leave, how they weaponize the legal system, ways to protect yourself and your children, and why your support team matters just as much as your attorney. So if you've ever wondered how to stand your ground in the face of relentless legal and emotional attacks, this conversation is going to give you both the tools and the hope to keep going forward. Let's get started. Today, I am thrilled to introduce you to Bree Sullivan-Howell. She's a family law attorney and an author, and I'm so excited to have her here. Bree, thank you for joining us.
Oh, so glad to be here, Renee.
So I want to go ahead and take a minute and introduce your book that you have as an author here. The book is called Crush Your Divorce and Keep Your Faith. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. Can you tell us just a little bit about it?
Well, I wrote it for people, women in particular, going through divorces, especially with high conflict ex-spouses or soon-to-be ex-spouses. It's broken into 3 sections. The first section is basically to get your mind and heart right for the battle coming, to help you parcel out your emotions so that you can deal with the legal battle, the financial transaction that's coming, the negotiations that are coming. Section 2 is all about dealing with post-separation abuse in all of its forms, which touches on the kind of work you do. Often we're dealing with high conflict people who may or may not have a clinical diagnosis of narcissism, but I don't go there typically, to do those labels, but the behaviors are the same. So I deal with that in Section 2. And Section 3 is all about how to help your lawyer prepare your case for victory, how to present a coherent case, how to organize exhibits and evidence, how to speak about your issues in a way that will resonate with the court.
Wow. No, that's an incredible tool then for these individuals, because the abuse doesn't stop just because you move out or just because you get divorced. Like that post-separation and then dealing with the courtrooms, all of that can definitely, it just continues.
That's right. It does.
Okay. And then you've got a follow-up book with it too.
Yes, the follow-up book is called Crush Your Comeback, and it's all about the stage after the divorce is over, and how to rebuild your life, encouragement for co-parenting in 2 households, how to, build your financial life again, that kind of thing.
Okay. All right. Well, that's awesome. And I'm so happy that you're helping these individuals that are out there because you are a family law attorney. So you practice what you are, in essence, talking about in these books.
That's correct. I'm helping people every day in these situations. And I just took my over 2 years, 2 decades rather, of practice and parlayed it into this one work that I can give to anybody in America, basically, who's going through similar things to help them through.
Okay, well, that's awesome. And we're going to talk about some of that then today. So let's just dive in, right here and get into the questions that I know my listeners are, begging for answers to.
Okay, sounds great.
Okay. So I want to dive into the narcissistic side of this for just a minute and the way that they view their target, okay, being the spouse, as a possession. Okay. They view their kids as a possession. That's how they view everybody around them, as an extension of them. So when you start this process of divorce, when you start, diving into court actions and stuff like that, what is it that gets triggered so hard in them, and how does this then they just turn on you? They turn on the target. Can you speak to that for a minute?
Well, absolutely. And you hit it right on the head. Spouses in relationships with narcissists are not loved properly, or it's not love at all. It's possession. It's this view of, what can my spouse do for me to advance my agenda, to make me look good to the public, to feed something in me that needs to be fed emotionally or egotistically, whatever. So when that spouse that's been under the thumb of the narcissist or the high conflict person dares to step out of line and say, enough, I'm not doing this anymore, and finds their voice and goes and gets a lawyer and stands up and says, we're going to deal with this in a court, not only is the narcissist or the high conflict person unmasked and embarrassed, but they've lost control over everything in their lives that they've always controlled. So they just spin into chaos and they come out fighting. It's like, what I see a lot is that, you get them backed into a corner answering your hard questions. They're very uncomfortable and they come out swinging. And it's a foreign territory for them because you've never done this to them before. So now all of a sudden they're just lashing out, trying to hurt you however they can to make it stop. And often that turns into the filing of motions and taking of actions in court that are not warranted, just to make it harder for you. They ask for things they don't want, like custody of children, because they know you care more about the children than anything else. They hit those Achilles heels as much as they can to go straight to the heart of what will hurt you. And it's a strategy I see played out again and again in my cases.
Well, and I have no doubt that they also think that they're above the rules. Okay, narcissistic people
Yes.
or entitled and manipulative people, they're above all the rules.
That's
And
right.
so they think that, that they can get away with it, or that they can use that as a way, even the threat of it, use it as a way to get you back under control.
Right. That's right. And they're used to getting away with it, which is part of the problem. You know, someone like that is difficult to deal with. And so they normally get their way because no one wants to stand up to them and have the fallout or the backlash of having an opinion against somebody like that. That's
Right.
not going to be popular. So they just give them their way. And that's how people around somebody who's high conflict cope with being in their life. So you get to this place where you're in a lawsuit suddenly, and it's not that way, and you're standing up to them. They don't deal with that well. And
No,
then
they
it becomes
don't.
more and more painful for
Yeah.
everybody around.
How easy is it, or hard, as the case may be, for a person who has been under their thumb for all of these years and trying to keep peace and trying to make it work to now stand up to them?
It's very difficult. And what you see a lot is they'll have the strength to stand up and file or get the lawyer to initiate proceedings, and then they get hoovered back in. They do before it gets bloody, it gets really sweet. And it's like this
Often.
manipulation of love bombing that happens. And a lot of people, And it can be women who are the high conflict narcissist type people too, doing it to men. I see it both ways. They hoover them back and they say, it'll all be different now that you've taken this step. I know you really are unhappy, so I'm going to change everything. And 9 times out of 10, they don't change. It takes so much therapy and so much soul searching that people just don't normally do.
And
So,
it takes a self-driven soul
yes,
searching. Like it takes
yes,
a self-driven motivation and an initiative to be able to actually make any of these changes. And that is one of the areas they really struggle.
I agree. It's like there's no introspection. It's like the world is there for my pleasure. And that,
Yes.
you know what I mean? And if
And they
you're
don't
not
want to change that.
right, and if the world isn't pleasing me, it's the world's fault. It's not anything I'm doing.
Right.
So it's a weird dynamic, but I see it over and over.
Okay. So talk to me about legal abuse. Like, is legal abuse a thing then in these divorces?
Absolutely, it's a thing. It's very much a thing. And I've got my book here. My whole section about that is called Objection, Legal Abuse, and How to Handle It. And, the first thing they do to begin with is they tell you not to get an attorney because they think they can control everything if there's no lawyer in there standing in the gap for you. So that's the number one pitfall to look out for. If someone's telling you, you don't need a lawyer, we can do this ourselves. Let's just do it. That is the red flag you need to take and run to an attorney's office. Number one. Because normally they're hiding something they don't want you to find out, or you're going to leave assets on the table, something.
Or they want to control the whole situation. It's
Right.
still another control move.
Oh, sure. It's just the next chapter in the same old thing.
Right.
Yeah. And then they file unnecessary actions and motions in the case. They ask for custody of children and make you go into a tailspin about, what's going to happen if I lose custody. And you end up fighting about things you shouldn't be fighting about because they're unreasonable. But everybody has a right to file these motions. Everybody has a right to discovery. And, they can get away with it for a period of time. It's just something you have to walk through and sort of expect. And then it doesn't bother you as much when it happens.
Well, that is very true. I definitely tell people that I work with constantly is you need to change your expectations of this person and expect the behavior that they have repeatedly shown you for how many years. We still hold that expectation. Well, they're going to get it now. They're going to understand, or they're going to treat me with courtesy, in this situation, or with respect. And I'm like, whatever makes you think they're going to treat you with courtesy and respect when they haven't for 24 years or 30 years or whatever, expect the behavior that they've already repeatedly shown you. And what that does, it doesn't fix anything, but what it changes is your reactions to it.
Right. And it's the old behaviors on steroids because now there's an audience that is public.
Right.
I mean, truly. And it gets to a whole new level you've never even seen. So you need to be prepared for that. Like, prepare to be shocked.
Right. 100%.
Yeah.
Now let's go back to the children. You've mentioned them a couple of times. How do they use their children as pawns in the legal game?
Well, the way I see it a lot is that they will take the children to an attorney's office and coerce them into signing something saying they want to live with the high conflict parent. Even though the high conflict parent has never really been involved too much with the children, is not the best placement, but the kids are scared of that parent, so they'll do whatever they say to do. Now, I meet with children in my office occasionally when it's a safety issue or when there's a reason we need to tell the judge, someone's not safe, we need to get this child out, they want to live with this parent because of this. But I always have the children write a letter, and they have to be of a certain age, of course, too. But I have them write a letter in their own words saying why they feel the way they feel. So it can't ever be accused that we coerce somebody into that. But a lot of attorneys just type up a little thing, and it's like a 1 page. I want to live with my mom or dad. Okay. And they have them sign this thing, and then it goes into the court record, and then they argue that child wants to live with me. And it puts the children in a terrible position. I mean, talk about never forgetting something your whole life as a kid, going to see an attorney, to be asked by a parent to sign something you don't understand or want, or
Right.
you're not even mature enough to be a part of. So
Right. And we talked earlier about the people in their lives that keep the peace just because it's like it's too uncomfortable to not. Well, imagine being a child in that situation.
Oh, it's so confusing. And it's abusive. It can be abusive.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
then you've got to convince the court how it's abusive and the background that makes it abusive. And I mean, it's just this whole education that you've got to give the finder of fact for it to be clear. It just takes a lot of work and a lot of time and a lot of attorney's fees to do it.
True. Yeah, true. Which is, again, how they're using the legal system to their advantage.
That's right.
How easy is it to prove or validate or document abuse that's not physical? We're not talking about physical abuse here. We're talking about the emotional manipulation, coercion.
Right.
How do you recommend somebody actually go about that?
Well, the way I prove it in my cases is I have my clients keep journals. I have them keep every message. I have them make recordings where it is legal to do that. And it's not legal everywhere to do recordings in certain settings. So I would just advise anybody, ask your local attorney for advice. Generally, disclaimer, this is not legal advice to anyone, anywhere. I'm just giving kind of food for thought for your viewers. But,
Right.
I think that's a big part of it is just documenting conversations where you've said to the person, I need access to more money, or I need you to stop being so awful to me. You yelled at me this morning and this is what happened and you broke the chair or whatever. And then they don't deny it. Then you have an admission that it happened. Or you've got photos of, a lot of times, if they don't abuse you personally, like they won't hit you or slap you or choke you or physically assault you, but they will knock holes in sheetrock and they will, speed in the car and scare everybody to death, or they'll punch something or break something, throw something. And if you have proof of broken things with photos, like
Right.
holes in walls and date stamps on those photos, and get the contractor who fixes the hole in the wall to write an affidavit. That's how you sort of build it. And the more people around your circle you can get with personal knowledge of these incidents, the more proof you'll have, because then you've got other adults who are seeing this stuff and they can speak to it.
Right.
Or if you went to them after something happened and they saw your reaction in the moment, like right after it happened, it's a lot more reliable evidence than if you waited a year or two to tell somebody.
Right. No, yeah, it's the situation where we spend so much time, for so many people, in this situation, we spend so much time protecting their image. Okay, we're protecting them from their own destructive behavior and
Right.
protecting their image to our family because we want our family to like them. We don't want our family to hate them. And
Yeah.
so we're protecting that image for them until we're not, until our eyes get open and then we finally see it for what it is. And now we're like not in the way of guarding them or protecting them. And now that behavior does start to show up, it can be really confusing to the family and friends around us.
That's right. That's right. And I see that all the time too. People are shocked when they hear the revelation of what's really been happening while you've been sugarcoating it for the world to have a good image of you and your family. And this is an extension of you if you're married to somebody. So it behooves every person in a marriage to make it look as good to everybody around as you can, because you want to be accepted and liked, and you want your children to be accepted and invited places. And, it's normal. But if you can just have one or two close people that you can truly trust, that's really all anybody has time for anyways, 2 or 3 good friends.
True. Yes. But it's a game changer to have those one or two as
Yeah.
opposed to not having anybody.
Correct. I agree.
Yeah. Okay. How can parents who are listening to this and are dealing with this situation with children, how can they become a safe haven for those children without crossing into this risk of parental alienation, the accusations that are going to get thrown at them?
Yeah, I think that's a real tricky one. And it's especially hard when kids come home from visitation or parenting time with the other parent that's been difficult, and they walk in your house and they just unload on you because of what they just went through. I mean, they're finally
Right.
in a place where they're safe to unload it on the safe parent, but it feels like the safe parent is being made to endure abuse from the child even, because it's like, why are you mad at me? Why are you lashing out at me? But that's just them getting their little emotions sorted out and
It is, and I've told
regulating
many
again,
parents, look, if they are unloading with you, yes, I've told many parents if they are unloading with you, that is actually a good sign because they see safety with you.
Right. I say the same things, that you just need to be the safe haven, take whatever it is, understand it for what it is. And they normally regulate, what I hear my clients say is, the kids are normally regulated back to normal by the next day. But that first night is just difficult. So,
Yeah.
because they've heard nothing but negative about the safe parent the whole weekend, and they come in with these attitudes and these aggressions they're not warranted, but they're there.
Yeah.
And it just takes many years before children grow up enough to see it for what it is.
Is there an age range where you think the children do finally start to see it for themselves, or is that inconsistent?
I feel like it depends on the family, but typically by high school, especially if a child gets some freedom, like with a driver's license or something, that's when it starts becoming evident, because children are able to be absent or get away or whatever. And
Or go stay at a friend's house where this isn't happening.
right.
And then they start to see, well, boy, my mom and dad don't talk like that. They don't communicate like that.
Right. Or they get to a place where they're physically larger because they're older and they don't fear the hostile parent as much because they know they can stand up to them. Like a boy to his dad or whatever. If they get big enough, then it's like, oh no, dad, no more of this,
Yeah.
But when they're middle school, it's not quite that way because they can still be manhandled
Right.
and often are manhandled.
Right. No, that's a good point. And they're put in their place, and
Right.
until they feel like they're not they're big enough to be able to stand up for themselves, or they're big enough to no longer be, like you said, put in their place.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So, how is physical safety? Is physical safety a concern in a high conflict, divorce situation where maybe up to that point it's only been holes being punched in the wall, which I say only, that's still very significant. Yelling, cursing, this kind of thing. But at what point does physical safety become a concern?
I think it is always in the periphery and can become a concern at the drop of a hat. Like it can turn immediately. You touch a nerve with someone like that, and they can lash out in the moment unpredictably. So I always tell my clients pretty much every case where I think the other party is unhinged to some degree or could be, to check for tracking devices on their vehicles, in their phones, the apps that can be used to track your location, whatever. I also tell them to check for hidden cameras in the home. And there are these little devices. I've not tried them yet, but on Amazon, they say you can get these devices that check for cameras in hotel rooms,
Okay.
And I've thought about trying that to see if they work so I can recommend them to my clients, but I've not taken that step yet. They have good reviews at least on the internet. So that's one way to do it. Just go around and see if you're being surveilled because you think you're having a private conversation with your mother in your house and the other party's hearing it.
And it's not private.
That's not private. And then they're
Yeah.
gathering all that information about you.
Yeah.
I also tell them, change your internet passwords on every account, every social media account, every email. Make sure
Yeah.
you're unsynced from the Apple ID sharing. I'm a Samsung person, Android, so I don't really understand all of that Apple stuff, but all I know is that a lot of divorces have happened because you find cheating on the Apple ID.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that
you
can-
can all the devices that are connected, or the Apple stuff that has like Find My. It's got a Find My thing, and if
That's
that's
right.
still on, you can still be tracked.
That's right.
It's not going to necessarily hear your phone calls and stuff, but it's going to track you. The other piece being that if you have a Life 360 app or any of that type of stuff on, I actually recommend to people that once they're in that divorce process or to that point, is to go get a separate cell phone account. Like get off their plan, get your own plan, and separate the two devices.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Often people can't always afford that.
Right.
But they can at least get a little phone at Walmart or something that's not connected to anything for their really private conversations with their attorney or with, and by the same token, I get people to make up their own email addresses just for me. A lot of times.
Yes, I've done the same thing. Yeah, is get a Gmail account that is separate and use it for talking to the therapist, the coach, the attorneys, any of that.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Why is it important not to throw around the clinical labels like in court? You spoke to this a little bit ago when you said, we're not into diagnosing here. And I hear people tell me, I said the word narcissism or I said the word gaslighting in court and it didn't go over so well. Can you speak to that?
Well, it doesn't. I think these words are thrown around so flippantly now that they lose their clinical meaning. And in court, you have to deal in evidence. It can't just be, this is how I feel about something, and you can't prove somebody is a narcissist unless you've got a mental health professional with a diagnosis that's certified in a regular business record or medical record and capable of authentication as evidence in the case. Or you have that person there to testify. So it's awfully hard to get those things. So it's just safer not to throw the labels around, because the first question a skilled divorce attorney or family law attorney is going to say to you is, so are you a mental health professional? You got a license to be labeling people like this? I mean, that's what I do when somebody labels my client like that falsely. I'm like, well, you don't have any proof of that, do you? You got a medical record? And then they look this big and they're babbling and stuttering and they just lose their credibility with the court. Plus, you've got to remember, at least where I am, most judges are happily married and or at least pretend to be. And they don't get that. They don't get that whole I'm being abused thing, because they aren't abusing their sweet wife or their sweet husband at home. They have a happy life. They don't get it. And unless you're being beaten to a pulp and objectively are able to prove that, this verbal and coercive control abuse stuff is just foreign.
It is. It's foreign. It's insidious. It's so passive aggressive, and people who have not lived it, they don't see it, and that includes judges and attorneys and mediators. Yeah,
it's true. So most attorneys around here are happily married too. I mean, they don't get it either. Yeah. So there's no empathy for it.
No, because there's no understanding. There's no awareness. So is there a way for, a person in this situation, how do they talk about what's going on without crossing that line of throwing around clinical labels?
You just have to speak in terms of fact. This thing happened. This thing happened to me, and it impacted my life this way. These are the ramifications of that behavior,
So you talk about the behavior and the facts of the behavior.
Objectively provable things. And then the judge can take away from that behavior whatever the takeaway is. But if the behavior is bad enough, say it's not allowing the spouse to have access to money, like you dole out an allowance to the spouse where they can't spend. And it's a measure of control. It's a way to keep them there. It's a way to keep them from getting a lawyer or getting away or any of those things. Well, all you have to talk about is, I've never been allowed to have a bank account. I'm only allowed $300 a week or whatever. And I'm only allowed to buy groceries or whatever. So these are factual. They are provable with bank records. And then say how that isn't fair or that hamstrings my ability to do these things that most normal adults can do, and judge that isn't right. So
do you suggest that they then speak to the lack of autonomy? It really, even to just be able to, as an adult, to be able to, you see a pair of shoes you want in the store and you can't even buy them because you don't have the allowance for that. That's an autonomy issue.
Yes, and it's a control issue. It's a meanness. It's a demoralizing thing to do to a person, to rob them of their ability just to live a free and reasonably happy life. There's nothing wrong with buying new shoes every now and then, or getting a cup of coffee if you enjoy coffee every few days. It's $5. It's not going to break the bank. And some of the most wealthy people control their spouses this way. Worse
Right.
than the poor people do. It's shocking to me.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. And that's, again, it goes back to a lot of the entitlement and superiority that goes with that.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. So why is it important to have support? We talked about, you need that one or two people, in your support group, or you need a therapist or a coach. Why is it so important to have support in tandem with an attorney? And an attorney, in fact, that's skilled with dealing with high conflict,
Yeah.
situations. Why is that so important?
Because you can't do it by yourself. And because in numbers, there's strength. Isn't it in the Bible that you should follow the wise counsel of those around you? We all need counsel. A good president needs a cabinet. A doctor needs other practitioners to say,
Yeah.
this is the diagnosis. Have you thought about this? You know, there's just wisdom in that, number one. There's also comfort in that, to know you're not alone. It gives you confidence, makes you feel like you can do it, like you're not fighting a losing battle. Like, these people believe in me, they're helping, they're giving ideas, we're going to be okay, I think it's important to have a mental health professional going through divorce, because it's a major upheaval. No matter what kind of divorce it is, you're changing your whole life. And it's like a death. You have to grieve it. It's a different experience than anything you've dealt with if you've never been divorced before. So I always recommend somebody gets a counselor, just a place to dump those emotions, because
Right.
your lawyer is not the right place to dump those. I take a lot of people's emotions, and I love my clients, and I'll do the best I can with it, but I'm not a clinical professional in mental health. So
Right.
it's just better for them to do that elsewhere. Um,
Just like in that same note, they wouldn't turn to the mental health therapist for the answers regarding the legal stuff.
no,
That you need a team.
that's
You need a
right.
team who understands the legal side of everything. You need that team member who is going to understand the emotional side of everything. You need that team member that's even a family member or a close friend who
Mhm.
understands more of on the personal side because they know this individual.
That's
I
right.
think you need a little team, a support group around you.
I think so. And often, if the finances are complex, you need a financial person on your team,
Sure.
a banker, an investment person, somebody who knows something about your finances, your CPA, something.
Hmm.
Um, Also, this divorce coach phenomenon has started. We've got a lot of divorce coaches now that
Yeah.
are quite capable, and they've often been through divorce themselves, and they're mental health trained and able to help with that element of it. They direct you to the
Good.
right resources. That can be a real benefit to folks.
Yeah. Good. No, I'm glad to hear that. And I think that's a great advice as well. And add to this that the person who, I'm going to do this alone, or I'm going to get through it alone, or I feel like I have no choice, or I'm still trying to protect his image. So I don't want to take that route of getting a team. Add to it how much in these relationships you are, in essence, brainwashed. We're told that we're worthless. We're told that we can't do anything. We're told that, we're kind of put in our place and that we're inferior. And so you've also now got all of this internal self-doubt that you're trying to work through as well. So I'm going to add that to another reason why you need the mental health help.
Yeah, and I think there's got to be, and this is where I distinguish myself from others who have written on the topic, is I think you've got to have a grounding in some kind of faith bigger than you. Um, that's what the first section of my book is all about. It's all about figuring out your worth. And I'm a Christian, so I go to the Bible for that kind of guidance, and I have my entire life. So that's a way of grounding yourself, because the Bible says again and again and again, you are dearly loved. You are important. You have value just by being a human being. Like, you are
Yeah.
God's pride and joy. And if
Yeah.
the God of the universe views you as his pride and joy, what do you have to fear? So
Yeah.
that's the whole point of all of the work that I do, is I try to minister to everybody's needs and help them feel better about the situation they're in, have the hope that it's going to get better, that it's not going to end their lives, that we're going to go on and have a whole new chapter that's going to be beautiful. And you get to write it yourself,
Absolutely.
and it's important work that,
So there is life after narcissism.
I think so. I
I
see
think
it
so
play out
too. I can
in my
speak to that.
I mean, my clients are amazing testaments to that. I've seen them beaten down. They walk in here just totally falling apart. And by the time we are done, they walk out of here with the biggest smiles, with all the hope in the world. They know they're okay. They might still be dealing with the pain of things, but they know it's going to be all right. And that's all anybody really needs, is to know that their future is hopeful and this isn't the end of it.
Yeah, good. Well, Bree, thank you so much for sharing these words, with this audience. Are there any other words of hope that you would like to leave our audience members with?
I guess just not to give up. On the days where it seems so dismal, like it's just never going to end, divorces have a way of lasting a while. The wheels of the law turn slowly often. But if you find yourself in a divorce with a high conflict person, just know tomorrow can be a whole new day. It can be very different than what you experienced today. There can be a change in the facts. There can be a change in circumstances. There can be a new ruling from a judge. There can be any number of things that can happen. You can't lose hope that that's going to happen, even on your worst days.
Yeah.
Because in the end, there is justice. And you just have to trust in that.
Well, thank you so much for that message. And anybody out there who's wanting to look up your work or reach out to you, how do they find you?
Well, I'm on the internet. I have a website for my law office, which is sullivan-firm.com. My books can be found at crushyourdivorce.com. They're also sold on Amazon. On Instagram, I'm Lawyer Bree. TikTok, I'm Lawyer Bree. And I also have Instagram for my book, which is Crush Your Divorce.
Okay. Thank you so much, Bree, for being here and being a part of this show.
Oh, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. What'd you think? Let me get this stopped.
Okay.
This conversation with Bree Sullivan-Howell has been a powerful reminder that divorcing a high-conflict narcissist is not just a legal process. It's an emotional and psychological battle. It's about protecting your safety, your sanity, and your future. You cannot do this alone. Build your team, document everything, speak in facts, not labels, and remember, just because they are relentless does not mean you have to be defenseless. If you take away one thing from today's episode, let it be this: there is life after narcissism. The road may be hard, but there is a future on the other side that is free, safe, and entirely yours to shape. Thank you again to Bree Sullivan-Howell for sharing her wisdom, her experience, and her encouragement with all of us. I'll have links in the show notes where you can connect with her and find her books, Crush Your Divorce and Crush Your Comeback. Until next time, remember, you are not alone and you are stronger than you know. I wish you so much peace on your journey of healing. You have been listening to the Covert Narcissism Podcast, where we break apart the insidious nature of these incredibly destructive and infinitely frustrating individuals. If you are caught up in this crazy-making relationship and drowning in self-doubt, guilt, or rumination, please reach out to me anytime. I offer individualized live coaching in both group and individual settings. We can find the right program for you. You do not need to go through this alone. You can find all of that information on my website at covertnarcissism.com. You can also reach out to me by email at Renee, RENEE, at covertnarcissism.com. I do look forward to hearing from each and every one of you. Remember, I am not a therapist, and you are not a victim. I am a coach, and you are a survivor. The information provided by Renee Swanson, Covert Narcissism Podcast, and CNG Life Coaching is for educational purposes only and is not to be used for diagnosis purposes. It is not intended to be a substitute for clinical care. Please consult a healthcare provider for guidance specific to your case. This material discusses narcissism in general. Renee shares stories from her personal experience as well as from those that she has worked with for several years. Her material does not claim that any specific person has narcissism and should not be used to refer to any specific person as having narcissism. Permission is not granted to link to or repost this material to support an allegation or support a claim that any specific person is a narcissist. That would be an unauthorized misuse of the material and the information provided. Thank you.